Looking forward to that. First up, though, this morning, Jason Padgett was just, in his words, an ordinary furniture salesman. Then, get this, 12 years ago, he was violently attacked outside of a club, and he thought he was going to die.
He survived the attack, but his brain was forever changed. That's right, he became a mathematical prodigy and the first documented case ever of acquired savant syndrome. His book is called Struck by Genius, and it ponders the question, does genius potential exist within all of us? That's right, we're thrilled to welcome Jason to the Morning Blend today and figure out maybe if we've got a little genius inside all of us. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I just haven't let it out yet.
I think we do. I think we all have it within us. When we had functional MRIs into my brain, we found out that I have conscious access to parts of the brain that we all don't have conscious access to. But like when you catch a ball, and I throw it to you, you calculated the gravitational field, the acceleration due to gravity, how long it takes the signal to get to your finger. So you're doing a massive amount of computations all the time. It's just being done unconsciously.
Did you prefer being kind of, I guess, ignorant to some of this, or do you like having the knowledge of what's actually happening with our brain? Because that's what's changed for you. We all do these things without thinking about it. You now see them and think about them.
Yeah, everything now looks like discrete whole pictures coming in. The smoothness of reality is gone. So like if your hand moving, instead of just looking smooth, it has this jittery motion to it. But I sometimes do miss that blissful ignorance of just not worrying about everything, because sometimes it would be nice to turn it off because you're overstimulated constantly thinking about everything.
So real quick, before you read something, I just want to know on that, when you say you see kind of movements past your hand moving, does that mean that you're seeing energy, or you're seeing equations, or are they the same thing?
Well, every equation is actually describing geometry. So for instance, like the equation f of the x equals x squared makes a little parabola. But the parabola is what's real, not x squared. And everything that's happening and occurring in the universe is geometry, not numbers. And we use the equations to describe the geometry. So the geometry is the naturally occurring form of the equation. It's what's real. And so when I see things, they look like individual picture frames. It's literally like seeing the natural form of math. So I draw it, and then eventually went back to school to learn how to write the equations to prove, like for instance, that the drawing of pi is pi at a certain value.
This is one of your most complicated drawings to kind of illustrate what you see in your mind. What is this?
That's one drawing. I'm visualizing Hawking radiation being emitted from quantum black holes, or from the Planck length black holes.
I do watch How the Universe Works. Have you watched How the Universe Works?
It is wonderful. That
it's the greatest show ever.
They're both fantastic.
Okay, so I've watched all those shows, and this still clearly makes no sense to me.
Yeah, one thing, that one is a little deep. One that I'd like to show to people is pi, or relativity. Relativity, there's a way to draw it, or just a way to explain it even. That's pi that we're looking at now.
There's pi right there.
That's pi at a value of 180 times the sine of pi divided by 180. But pi is actually a shape that is expanding forever closer to a circle, but never actually reaches it. Imagine like the pixels on your TV screen, and when you hit pause and you're looking at a circle on your TV, it's not a circle, it's made from rectangular square pixels. So it's really a zigzag. But if you make the pixels on your TV smaller to infinity, you're always getting closer and closer to a circle, and the resolution gets better, but you never actually get there.
Okay, I want to back up just a little bit, because this gets to the mullet that we see in this picture, which was in the 1980s, right? I mean, you loved to party. You went to a lot of bars. You described goofing off, trying to pick up girls. You were a college dropout. You sported this mullet, probably thought you were looking all right. I mean, because to look at you today, you look like a smart guy. Yeah. I wouldn't say nerdy necessarily, but maybe a little bit. You look super smart. I mean, but I mean, back then it was a much different look. You didn't even get through pre-algebra, did you?
No, it was a different world. Literally everything was just chasing girls, going out to bars, goofing off, driving real fast in our cars, and whatever adventure that we could go to next. It was fun, but at the same time very shallow.
What happened the night that you were attacked outside of a nightclub?
I left, and these two guys were behind me. I didn't even see it coming. I just saw a bright flash of light, like somebody took a picture, and they had attacked me from behind. And the next thing I knew is I was on my knees trying to figure out why I was on my knees, why I was getting hit from all different directions. And then I thought I was getting attacked by like 12 different people, but it was like 2. And I remember having this feeling that I'm dying, I'm going to die right now, and I had that fight or flight response came on, and I remember thinking, I just want to hurt one of these guys before I die. And I grabbed his leg, and I remember biting him so hard that I cracked my front teeth.
No way.
Yeah, and then the other guy just started kicking me in the back and the head until finally they hadn't said anything. One of them said, "Give me your jacket," and I threw me this cheap leather jacket that I had, which was by then all torn up, off, and they grabbed it and ran away. Turned out when I paid my bill, I took my wallet out of my jacket, but I put it back in my pants pocket.
Nice.
So they thought my wallet was in my jacket, and they wound up just getting a torn up jacket.
Was it random? Were you targeted?
Yeah, it turned out it turned out that they knew people that worked there, and I had been pointed out. So yeah.
So what happened to your brain? I mean, you obviously hit your head, right?
Right. I went to the hospital right afterwards. They just diagnosed me with a concussion and a bleeding kidney, sent me home that night with some pain medicine. And at first, I thought it was the pain medicine that was making everything look so funny. I was like, wow, this stuff is crazy. And but then after it wore off, I realized that it's not.
It was immediate then.
Yeah. And for 3 years, I sat in my house and I left to get food only. I mean, if I ran out of food completely, and then I would go out at nighttime. I had rugs over the window. I went through this period of like post-traumatic stress because all these people watched and nobody helped. Nobody did. And in fact, this one guy, I looked up and I said, "Help," ducked a punch, and I said, "Help" again, and he went like this, turned around and walked away. And there was all these people watching, and of course nobody did anything. And so anyway, this 3-year period in my house, that's all I did was study and just take in this new world, and at the same time deal with some of the bad things that had come. I get these uncontrolled muscle movements throughout my body since then, and OCD came with it, where I love my hand sanitizer
here because I shook your hand. I was like, I didn't know if you were okay with that. But I mean, that you said you were looking for your hand sanitizer.
Yes, it was perfect timing. I was looking for my hand sanitizer when you pulled that out.
So the OCD is something that comes with it.
Yeah, and I've actually gotten a lot better at it. I couldn't touch anything for a while. It was so bad when that 3-year period, I was literally Lysoling money and then putting it in the microwave for 30 seconds to make sure I killed all the germs on it.
No way.
Yeah, my hands were just raw from washing, because when you notice so much that there's really no escaping germs, and so once you start noticing it constantly, it just becomes overwhelming.
Can you see germs?
No, I'm very aware of everything, like especially geometrically now. So I'll watch somebody walking towards me and they're holding hand with their kid, and I just saw their kid touch his nose, then grab his dad's hand, and his dad wants to shake my hand, and then all I can think of is what his child was touching right before that, or what he was touching, and it just, you can keep going backwards like that forever, and it causes a lot of anxiety.
Well, and you're married now. There's a picture of your wife in the book. I'll try to find it. But you are extra sensitive to how people are feeling, and if someone is uncomfortable, that's almost painful.
You avoid all conflict.
So do you avoid conflict with your wife too? What would she say to that?
We get along fantastically. In fact, I would actually have this happen all over again, not just because of the gift, but because I went back to school and I met her at school. And we have one of those marriages that's gotten better every year. And we're expecting a baby in 97 days.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Do you run 3 futon furniture stores, right, in Tacoma, Washington?
Yeah, it's my father's company, and I help him out a lot. I keep trying to leave, but no matter what I do, they pull me back in. So,
but you're doing stuff with MIT as well.
I've been doing all sorts of different things. MIT, I don't know where that got in. I just talked to somebody who was involved with that, but a lot of places it got in the news somehow, got bigger and bigger.
Really quickly, do you like yourself better now? Do you like your life better now?
Definitely. I look back and I'll be alone by myself. Nobody's around, and I'll think of the way I was when I was younger, and I'll turn red, because I just get embarrassed when I think about the things I thought and what I thought was important, and the things that we said and did. It's silly. It's just silly beyond. And I'm surprised we're alive. Like my friend Rick and I did things that just were crazy.
Does he like you now that you're a mathematical whiz?
Yeah, we still get along. Yeah.
Does he have a mullet?
He did have a mullet. He had the hair that came down, the bangs that came down, and a perm to boot. So he had a permed mullet.
All right. Well, whether it was just the progression of the years or the progression of your intelligence, we're glad that your hair's like this now.
Me too.
Looks good.
It was fascinating having you here, and we're so glad as well that you are able to be here signing books. You have this wonderful book. You're sharing your story, educating people about this. Struck by Genius book signing is going on tonight at 7:30 at Madison Public Library, which is right on Mifflin Street. So make sure you stop by, get a book signed, and learn a little bit more about how important geometry is, right? Don't pass it up in school.
Don't pass it up, because it really is math, and learning it this way is easier. You can teach your kids the hardest things, and then when they go into algebra, they know where it comes from.
That's cool. Really nice to meet you. Thanks for spending your time with us.
Thank you very much.